Hi everyone. I recently had a question on how can a form validate whether two dates are within 5 minutes of each other. So let's have a look at the rules for a second. So if we go to the rules and so we're on the form, we've got start and end in date time controls. So we come to rules, and if we were to say check time, and we say if start, and it can only be after, before, empty, or filled. So it doesn't tell us the range that's in. So what we can do is there's a couple of ways we can do this. We could say insert, and we go put a formula in here. We go date diff, date diff diff. You can say the syntax here is if you want to check it, you can just type in date diff, and it'll explain it all in there. But what I'm going to do is just type it in here and say total minutes, and then you say start, and it'll show you the controls that you've got, end, and also show you functions as well. So ends with, or we just want the control. And so what that's going to return is the total minutes difference between start and end. So we can go and insert that, and we could say, well, if it's less than or equal to 5, then I'm going to say the end date is control fill something obvious, and done. Else end control fill is just neutral. So I'm going to create that and go to preview. So if I'm just going to say the first, and I'm going to say 940, done, and select the first and do 941, done. And now we can see that that's actually too close. And so what you then need to do is go 46 and done, and it clears it out. So you might want to do something like you could do two things. You could probably do is one, you could put a label in here and say your time is, and this is where we could get a bit smart. We could actually have a variable instead of just the formula. And so let's say we've got an example here, so we've already built this before. So date diff, time diff, we've already built that same function, so we can reuse that in our rules. So we can say get rid of that logic, and we can insert that variable and put that in there. So if the time diff is less than or equal to 5, we go and update that. We go to designer, and we can come back to the label, and we can reuse that variable. So we can go let's go insert. So your time is your time is minutes. It must be greater than 5 minutes. Okay, simple. Now we'll make that visible no, and then we'll come back to our rules, and we would say, rather than putting the control fill, which looks a bit ugly, we can just say label visible is true, otherwise label visible is false. Okay, let's go to preview, and so we select our date, and our time is 9:42, done, and we select our date, and our time is done. The time is 0 minutes. It must be greater than 5. So then, and if we adjust that slightly, it's going to tell me it's 1 minute, or 1 minute. We could actually have more logic in there if it's less than, or if it's equal to 1, we could change the language and those sort of things, but that's for another video. And then so finally, once we get to above 5 minutes, oh, look out, what have I done wrong? Done. There we go. Okay, so now, so it had to be 4:47. So let's go back down to 47, greater than or equal to, and if we go up 1 more minute, it disappears. So that's one way you could do it. There's a whole bunch of different ways you could do this. You could either also do things in here around formulas. So rather than just a variable, you could say do the whole thing in a variable, in a function. So you go date. Did I paste it? There we go there. So now that returns a number to me, so it's going to say these are the minutes between these two dates. But then I could also do something like if else, and we'd say that's going to be our function, and then we'd say if this is greater than or equal to, sorry, less than or equal to 5, then we could return true. Otherwise, return false, and that's going to come back as boolean to our rule. So the rule's now going to say, okay, if it's less than or equal to 5, then the response is yes, that's true, and then it's going to go and do the same logic here. So we can come back to preview, and we'll go back to 943, sorry, and 944. There we go. So it's still the same logic. It's just a different way of perhaps calculating that. So it's really up to you. Lots of different opportunities there. And if you've got any other suggestions or ideas or questions, certainly let me know in the comments. Cheers.